type of guy that can't control your girl. You try to buy love with diamonds and pearls. I'm the type of guy that shows up on the scene and gets the 7 digits. You know the routine. You're the type of guy that tells her stay inside while you're steady frontin' and your homeboys ride. I'm the type of guy that comes when you leave. I'm doing your girlfriend. That's something you can't believe. Cause I'm that type of guy. 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 You're the type of guy that gets suspicious. I'm the type of guy that says the pudding is delicious. You're the type of guy that has no idea that a sneaky, freaky brother's sneaking in from the rear. I'm the type of guy to eat it when you won't and lick you in the places that your boyfriend don't. You're the type of guy to try to call me a punk, not knowing that your main girl's biting my chunk. I'm the type of guy that loves a dedicated lady. Their boyfriends are boring, and I can drive them crazy. You're the type of guy to give her money to shop. She gave me a sweater. Thank you, sweetheart. I'm that type of guy. I'm that type of guy. I'm that type of guy. I'm that type of guy.
Yeah, we back in the house. Yep. I would like to welcome you all to another exciting episode of the Night Riders Squad cast. And yes, as per usual, we're going to get it cracking the way we do around these parts. And of course, they're still messing with the channel. You guys, I'm sure we have noticed some shenanigans. They're still suppressing our views, suppressing our sub counts, all of that. But you know how it is. We're very resilient. We've been dealing with this for quite some time. We know what the real numbers should be. We should be well over 100K subscribers right about now and so forth. But it's okay. We have other irons in the fire, and we're just getting it going the way we know how. Now, oh, and by the way, we have a lot of other things going, such as our private networks and things like that. So we do have countermeasures to all this foolery and shenanigans that they're trying to pull. But anyway, we've been over that before. But, this particular topic is something that's been on the periphery. And as you know, I've, kind of dissected some of these clowns in the past. One in particular, this guy, light-skinned historian, that was the main one I was familiar with, and I just kind of stumbled across his stuff. But little did I know that there were kind of a quartet of these crying, cornbread-colored clowns who are out here just really making a scene. And, I wasn't aware of them until I just started getting these little tidbits, and I realized that there's kind of, I guess I would say, 4 of them, as you can see in our little handy thumbnail here. And I like to think of them as the four mulemen of the Mullattopacalypse. Not horsemen, because they're going to come into town riding on mules. But they're the 4 mulemen of the Mullattopacalypse. And these particular individuals, it's been brought to my attention that they've been out here, spreading a lot of nonsense. And I wouldn't have a problem with it, but for the fact that they keep trying to shoehorn black men into their conversations. And, truth be told, I don't think that there needs to be hostility between black people and biracial people. And I made this point before with regard to identity. When I go in on making these distinctions because, as you know, I am the author of the 80% 2x4 rule. A lot of people, they've been kind of recycling, they've been putting it out there, but they kind of dropped the first part of it. They'll just say, well, yeah, I have 4 black grandparents, but they forget the entirety of it, which is the 80% of the African DNA. Maybe they have something to do with this ridiculous FBA movement. They don't want to, use that as a metric in terms of the African DNA, but que sera, sera. But the 80% is important with regard to, making a foundation, no pun intended, in terms of your genetic makeup, and 2 black parents, 4 black grandparents. So I put forth this as just kind of a dividing line, not to put anybody down, but as a counterweight against this antiquated 1-drop rule. You guys know the drill. We've been talking about this for years. But these particular individuals, they're ostensibly creating this movement, which I have no problem with if they want to try to distinguish themselves in terms of their history and so forth, as long as they don't try to whitewash our history. And that's the reason why I had to body bag the other clown. I don't even know if they associate with him anymore, because he's been debunked, probably doing no small way to some of the work I've put into, dismantle some of that foolery that he's been putting out. That is to say, this light-skinned historian guy. But these particular individuals, they look like startups. I just been made aware in terms of having confirmation that the guy with the Mario cap, I guess the M can also stand for mulatto. But for a long time I had heard that name, Mulatto Vanguard, but it was associated with that Exoticals United Joker chick. So I guess it was before he was showing himself on cam. So I just kind of heard in passing that he was basically a troll account. So I didn't take him serious. I may have called the name out a couple of times, but I thought it was that Joker, Bleach article, and we totally destroyed and dissected her arguments over here. But I come to find out that he is an actual individual, and the other guy, with the Luigi outfit, is this other guy by the name of Mulatto Ronin, which I find fascinating because they're talking all this stuff about mulatto this and biracial that, but he's quite the fan of monoracial culture, that is to say Japanese culture, because the name Ronin actually is a samurai who doesn't have a master. And you can go down a list with these guys. They're walking contradictions. And again, I wouldn't even be addressing them if not for the fact that they keep trying to bring black men into the equation. And the bottom line is, and when you boil it all down, these guys were butthurt. They're biracial, belly aching, and mulatto moaning about the fact that in their estimation, there are too many multiracial or biracial women chasing after or getting with black men. When you boil it all down, when you get past all of this pseudo nation building rhetoric that they're talking, when you really get down to the brass tacks, their issue is the fact that there are a lot of, apparently, and I didn't even know that this was going on to the extent that it was, there, biracial or mulatto women who are out here just singing the praises of black men, telling the world how much they love us and how much they don't like their counterparts. And to which these guys are butthurt. And as you can see in this thumbnail, they are, while at the same time trying to talk about building a mulatto community, they're simultaneously burning it down because they keep bitching and crying about the fact that these women want men other than themselves. And all this talk that they'll do about, free markets and so forth, if you kind of, I've had the opportunity to listen to some of their rhetoric, but they're actually social communists. They don't want mulatto women to have options outside of them. And it's really quite weird when you really look at it. So we're going to get into this, and this is going to be very entertaining. We're going to have a little fun with this. And I've called these type of guys out before. We have our annual smoke show. And, we'll tag these guys. We'll go ahead and try to, invite them to panels. But, it's really kind of interesting how they keep ducking and dodging. Now, when it comes to these particular individuals, this would be the first time that I think I'm actually addressing them directly, because I just became aware of their existence, such as it is. But it's really unfortunate that these guys are doing this the way they are, because it could have went a different way. They kind of had a fork in the road, and they chose violence. They chose to come out with all of this rhetoric, such as these little cute terms they're trying to use and throw around incorrectly, nonetheless, calling people Bantus, which, as I mentioned before, Bantu is literally a linguistic designation that can include a lot of subgroups on the African continent. And it just so happens that the Bantu are the civilization builders on the continent. The Nubians were Bantu, the Egyptians were Bantu, so forth and so on. A lot of the West African kingdoms. So I kind of take that as a compliment, even though these degenerates are trying to turn it into some type of pejorative. I just find it funny, in their ignorance. And, what's even more ridiculous is the fact that if they are indeed mulattoes, which would indicate that they're at least 50% black, or maybe even more, that DNA would trace them back to being Bantu. So that's why I can't take these guys seriously. Right. But again, this is going to be edutainment. It's going to be educational, and it's also going to be fun. We're just going to, as you can tell, I'm not, look at the thumbnail. We're making a play on the Super Mario game, because these guys are characters. But if any point they want to have a serious conversation, the invitation is always on the table. I am busy, throughout the summer. But towards the end of the year, if any of these guys would like to come and try to defend their rhetoric, I have no problem with it. Now, initially, this could have been more of a kind of conciliatory engagement, but because of this rhetoric and because of their their jealousy and their penis envy, and in some cases maybe even vagina envy, because it looks like they want the same attention that their female counterparts is getting. But we're going to get into that a little bit later. If they were actually more respectful and respecting their dark-skinned daddy, as they should, because deep down a lot of these guys have a lot of admiration. And what I'm going to show you a little bit later is that this is a case of the fanboys going rogue. How someone is a fan and then they become a fanatic. That's the case with these guys. These were the same guys that were probably wearing dashikis when Black Panther came out, and they were, squirming in their seat, crying that there were not a lot of representation, light-skinned people on the screen during Black Panther, even though it was the fictional place of Wakanda is based on a non-colonized African country that never really came in contact with Europeans. That's kind of like the whole story, but they were butthurt because they didn't see, melanin deficient people on the screen living in Wakanda. So it's kind of weird, but these are those same guys. They were at some points ultra pro-black, and then somewhere along the way they lost the plot, and now they're out here, as I said, biracial but belly aching about the whole thing. And the unfortunate thing about this is it didn't have to go that way. They clearly have a lot of admiration for us. They've taken a lot of talking points and strategies from this space, me in particular. And I dare any one of them, because from what I'm looking at, I see a lot of my talking points kind of being regurgitated. So either they got it directly or from somebody else who listens over here. They're talking about some of the things that we've been talking about for years, but for all this talk about them wanting autonomy, they seem to be drawing a lot from us monoracials, us blacks as well as Asians. They're over in Asia, like one of these guys is in Thailand, I guess, and the other one, I guess, has been in Korea. And, it's kind of weird that you want to create this multiracial identity and outlook, but you can't keep yourself out of monoracial business and monoracial spaces. So it's fascinating. But anyway, we're going to get into some of this work. And what we're going to do here is we're going to go back a little bit. We're going to have to pull up some history, right? We're going to have to pull up some history, because these guys, you know what? I thought I had the the thumbnail on the screen. So let me go ahead and I just have to look at my other monitor. I got like 3 monitors in front of me. So let me go ahead and put them back on the screen, because I thought you guys were looking at the thumbnail. And in case you didn't see it, this is what I was referring to. Yes, the four mulatto horsemen, or the mulemen of the Mullattopacalypse. There you have it. So yeah, I do, you know, want to, have you pardon me for, speaking about the thumbnail while I didn't have it on the screen. I didn't have my screen share open so that you could see the glorious illustration that we've prepared for you, the visual aid, if you will. But we're going to go ahead and get into some of this work, because some of these things that need to be said, and unfortunately, as I mentioned, these guys just kind of jumped the shark with this whole thing, and it didn't have to go this way. They could have been more humble, and there could have been an approach that would have been more productive in terms of what they wanted to do. But I'm going to show you the fatal flaw in what they've done, and we're going to get into this work. So, like I said, the initial thing that is prompting this is their rather incessant fixation on black men, in particular being with mulatto women. While it's kind of peculiar that they have nothing to say about all of the mulattoes with white men, which I would surmise are at least as many, if not maybe even more, of them that go to the white side. But they don't seem to be as butthurt about that. It's weird. As well as other groups, other monoracial men, such as Asians. I would surmise to be a sizable number of mulattoes that go with Asian men. But they don't have a problem with that. I guess because they themselves are chasing after Asian women, which they're going to produce non-mulattoes after that, because Asians, even when they get with black people, when they create these Blasians, right? Those Blasians look Asian. I mean, they're dark and they still have, black attributes, but they clearly look Asian. Now, when you factor in these people who have a more of a recessive gene, and they don't have as much dominance with regard to their gene pool, those children are going to, for all intents and purposes, probably look more Asian. But I guess they haven't factored that into their little, the little crusade here going on. But we're going to have to go back into a little bit of history, because they're so hyper-focused on the fact that mulattoes are with black men that they are neglecting some of the fundamental ingrained reasons for this. They just think that it's simply because of, I guess, maybe modern social media or whatever harebrained issue that they have with this whole thing, but it's really deeper than that. You can go back to the plantation days. You can go back to specifically, Reconstruction, all of those periods after, where the mulattoes in particular, they were trying to find their way in the world. They had been, used up and busted down by the white men, and especially after the Civil War, a lot of them were kind of like aimless ghosts walking around. They had created these brothels, and they were servicing white men, and in some cases they were passing. And when all else failed and they didn't have any other place to go, they would start filtering themselves into the black communities, because at that time the mulatto males had not built any mulatto communities. They were running up behind their white daddies, or trying to mooch off of whatever remnants of slavery they could. So it's kind of interesting that they are now at this late state talking about how they need to build up their mulatto communities, when they've had several decades, if not hundreds of years, to do just that. So these mulattoes were kind of like ships without a sail. And I think a very good depiction of what was going on during that time is the Queen story, which is telling the story of Alex Haley's, I think it was his great grandmother who was a mulatto. And it's a very good depiction, and it's based on a true story. And I'm going to use this as an illustration to kind of give you some fundamental context in terms of how the mulatto in particular was easily kind of, I don't want to say easily, but as a process by virtue of, things and circumstances that happen. A lot of these mulattoes were in fact kind of grafted into blackness, and it's not just because of them chasing pookies nowadays or whatever these guys are griping about. There's a psychological and sociological reason that a lot of mulatto women heavily identify with black people. But I'm going to, we're going to deal with this in a very pragmatic way. So like I said, we're going to get into some of these clips and I'm going to break it down and want to take it from there. So let's go. And by the way, in this clip, you're seeing Halle Berry, who's depicting the great grandmother, I believe, of Alex Haley, who was mulatto. And she's witnessing some Klansmen coming through, burning down whatever little house I think she was at. And we're going to see what condition she was in and who actually took her in and cleaned her up. And we'll see how this all turns out. So let's get it. As you can see, she was out there down bad. Everything was gone. She had tried to, work at a brothel. She got outed for that. She was getting raped by white men. Her family, that's to say her white family, because they were plantation owners during the Civil War, they lost, obviously. So they lost, all of their wealth that they had. So they were not about to claim her and the rest of those little mulattoes that was running around. So she had to kind of, she decided to, make her way in the world as best she could. And she was kind of, as we say, down on her luck. But let's get it.
Help me, Lord. Can't go on like this forever.
Okay, so for all you mulatto men who nowadays acting as though you're the savior, I guess, of the mulattoes, where were you at during this time? This is where they were at a critical moment. And this is the genesis of how a lot of them, because this is just one example, but this is the genesis of how they were during that time as mulatto women. But we're going to see what happens. Let's get it.
How long? It's forever. Is it a moment? A day? Year? A lifetime? Or is it forever? Forever is eternity. And this veil of tears is not eternal. Our wretched misery on this earth is but a moment in the blinking of God's eye. When that moment we call life is done, we will be taken up in glory. We will bask in the sun of God's love and glory. We will dwell in the bosom of the Lord in glory. Not for a moment, not for a year, not for a lifetime, but forever and forever and forever in glory.
Help me. Somebody. Help me. Help me. Please. Help me. A negro.
Okay, so she came in there screaming that she was Negra. She didn't say she was mulatta, right? So for all you clowns out here talking about how you've been one dropped, a lot of these mulattoes such as her who may have tried to pass at some point, or maybe that didn't work out, and they didn't have anywhere else to go, they were not trying to propagate this nebulous mulatto or mulatta identity. They would come among black communities, whether they, coming into their churches, what have you, saying that they were Negra. They were not screaming about no mulatto. So for all you jackasses trying to constantly gripe about someone one dropping you, historically, it wasn't blacks that either invented the one drop rule or propagated it, right? And that's another thing. We're gonna get into this a little bit later, but you guys need to pick a struggle. On the one hand, you're crying about the fact that you're being one dropped, right? But then you're saying black people are rejecting you or saying that you're not black. So which one is it? What is your major malfunction? Is it because black people are one dropping you to death and erasing you, or is it because we're not accepting you as black? We're going to get into that because I'm going to show you the reason why they can't even make up their mind. They don't know their ass from a hole in the ground in terms of what they're crying about. You ever seen a little kid who's crying and they're just crying so hard, and you go up to them and ask them, "Hey, what you crying about?" And they just, they don't even answer you. They just keep whimpering and crying. They can't even explain to you why they're crying because that's what these dudes sound like. But anyway, we're going to get into it.
Help me! Help me, God! I need help! I need food! Help me! Help me! I'm scared!
Notice it had to be a black person to come and have mercy on that tortured soul. And that happened all through the South, all over the place. And, the gratitude that you get is these guys coming in modern day talking all this nonsense. Okay. Want to create all these misguided labels. I guess during that time, it was okay to, want to be down with the Bantus, right? So Halle Berry or this mulatto that she's portraying, she would have came in there screaming that she's a Bantu. it wouldn't have mattered as long as they would have taken her in. So there's that. But anyway, let's go.
Help me! Somebody help me! Help me! Please! Help me!
All right, we're gonna take care of
Help
you now.
me! Help me! Lord, this is good.
Yeah, there you have it. And we got this other clip. We're going to show how the blacks took in the mulatta, cleaned her up, gave her civilization, gave her culture, kind of like what the Moors did up in Europe, teaching people how to bathe, all that good stuff. And it kind of played out in the Americas like that too, but, they don't want to talk about that. But, they gave her civilization, gave her a place to stay, helped her get a job working in the big house and all that kind of stuff. But we're going to get this other little clip here. And I'm making a larger point, so... And this is I can see it now. Here come the mulatto, the mulatto anxiety, the BBC indie, all of that's about to come out now because man, here she come, toting victuals in a cool glass of lemonade or whatever that is to drink, because you got the big black buck out there and you know how this is about to go. So here we go.
What you done?
Hurt my shoulder chopping on this old tree trunk.
Well, I could do that.
Thank you.
Okay, so she offers to rub her mulatto mitts on his back, and he's been out there chopping trees. I mean, what's the man supposed to do, right? She oiling him up.
Did it hurt?
Oh, it's worth it for this.
She's putting mulatto magic mitts on him, man. What the man supposed to do?
You got magic hands.
My mama taught me. It was my papa's favorite thing. I meant, These hurt.
Ain't you never been beat?
Not really. I got
Yeah, but you hear them tell her they were going through the same things that actual black people were going through during slavery. You goddamn right she didn't get beat like that because that was her daddy. Anyway,
to switch a few times.
The switch. But they say, don't feel it after the first few lash. That ain't true. You feel every sting of it. Cut across your back like a razor and go on cutting. All you feel is this terrible pain, this dreadful anger that they got the power to do this to you. Just 'cause you black.
and we've gone over in the past how we as men, as black men, lost our authority, and it took thousands of years for us to get to that point. We dealt with that, and it's funny how these, whether it's these other groups of men, such as these white men or whoever, they'll try to brag about how they conquered us and all that, when in reality there were a lot of circumstantial things that happened. At no point did a European standing army go into the continent of Africa and just start wrecking shop and defeat standing African armies. Never happened. They were always lose. I don't care if it was the Zulus. I don't care if it was Queen Nzinga. I don't care if it was the Nubians. I don't care. They were always getting their asses kicked. Africa stood strong for hundreds of thousands of years, never being able to be invaded. You had you had a lot of things going on. You had the Arab slave trade, which unfortunately there were a lot of Arabized Africans and of course multiracials that were in kind of nipping at the periphery of the empires, and it took hundreds of years for it to get weakened. John Henry Clark talked about this in depth in terms of how the African kingdoms got weakened over time, and that's how they were able to come in. And not to mention the other very subversive things that they were doing, kind of going back on treaties and so forth. You know how they get down, but they love to brag about defeating somebody and enslaving people. That is, of course, until they're held accountable. Then all of a sudden they didn't do nothing. That was just, I didn't do it, that was my ancestors. Well, why the hell are you always bragging about it? And you'll hear some of these deranged mulatto guys saying the same thing, when in reality it took a long time for black men to get into the situation that we're in, and we're obviously aware of that. And there are things that are moving that we see. There's an awakening happening. A lot of black men are starting to reclaim and understand our true history, and that's why we don't play games when it comes to these dudes trying to whitewash our history. But anyway, that's a whole nother subject.
And you hate them with every ounce of hate you got inside you for doing this to you.
And we had real oppression. These dudes crying about the fact that they just ain't being chosen and that they're not the preference. That's what they're crying about, when we got a whole centuries of enslavement, discrimination, all kinds of wickedness has been leveled on us, and we're still standing strong. But these guys are buckling and crying and whimpering at the fact that some thoughts on TikTok say that they don't like them. It's ridiculous.
Don't hate. Ain't no need for hate now.
That's all there is.
No. There's love.
So that's how it would go down. So for all you, I mean, I'm trying to be cool, but you guys need to stop with your jealousy. The people were getting together. This is something as old as time itself. No one was trying to erase you. People would hook up in situations like this where you have a mulatto and, she come across a black man, she falls in love. And then, people do what people do. But instead of them, as I said earlier, they're not free market in terms of human interactions and human relationships. They are social communists. They want to create a circumstance by which the mulattoes can only choose them. That's what they want. That's what this whole thing is about. That's why I'm showing you guys this history to show how the natural thing progression happened. The black man didn't put together a social construct that we could just capture all the mulattoes. That didn't happen. There were circumstances that happened like this. But anyway, let's get it. And I'm also playing this to piss them off because I know they don't like seeing that black buck going in on that mulatto. So anyway.
Did I hurt you?
Thought I was gonna die from love.
Man, if I had $1 every time I heard that from a mulatto. But anyway, let's go.
Oh, my sweet queen. You got more love in you than anybody I ever know. You're filled up with love.
And you?
Don't know how much room there is in my heart.
I want a little. I need a tiny space. I want your child.
If I had $1 for every time a mulatto told me that. Anyway.
I wouldn't bring a child into this world.
You wouldn't have to marry me unless you wanted to. I wouldn't make you.
Now, you fast forward to today, and that's happening right now. You have a lot of these situations where you get these mulattoes where they get impregnated by these guys and they don't require marriage. And we know the whole story. Now, one of the things that I needed to address was, in my previous video, I did go in on these scheming mulattoes such as our late brother's ex, our late brother, that is Malcolm Jamal Warner, and how his biracial Barracuda baby mama is out here scheming for the money. And I think that maybe not in her case, I don't know, but a lot of these mulattoes, they've been burnt and they've had some bad experiences. And again, we hold people accountable for their own decisions, but we also have to hold ourselves responsible. And that is to say, not us, because we're respectable and responsible black men, but we have to understand that in some cases, even the ones that are not the Pookies and the Ray Rays, they may have not, kept their obligations. And we do know that black men are some of the most involved fathers. So we clearly are not going to go there, but we have to understand the fact that we have to, as men, make sure that we are responsible. And one of the things that I mentioned was that we need to, well, I know me specifically, start to care more about how we treat women with regard to the ones who are down with us. You know what I mean? We ain't talking about the ones that just want to get busted down and all that. I'm saying you have to be able to distinguish, just like we implored them to distinguish between, the decent black men and the Pookies and Ray Rays. We need to do a better job at distinguishing between those women who are just the ones that are the bust downs versus the ones who really want a real serious connection. And I think a lot of times, because the mulatto has been hypersexualized, it's unfortunate, but we sometimes buy into that too, and we do fetishize them. And I think that that's created a lot of resentment. And the reason why I think that we need to take this seriously is because it dawned on me that a brother like Malcolm and other good men may be on a receiving end on some of this resentment for the actions of some of these other guys, right? And I think that it's incumbent upon us to make sure that we create, at least with, you have a platform like mine, give some of these women an opportunity to express what it is that they really want. And you know, like I said, I'm not one of these guys who are saying that 100% of, black women are bad, because I know I got some writers, some women that are writers over here, and we try to be more practical and pragmatic, because I gave you guys a very good list of reasons why it's a bad idea to kind of say all of them are bad. I've already talked about that, but I have another reason that I can tell you real quick, and that is, you don't want to lump the good in with the bad, because number one, that shows poor judgment on your side, but it also gives the bad ones a talking point to say, see, they don't even care that whatever you're doing, that the ones that they call the pygmies, and shout out to the pygmy nation, but they don't care about. See, this is what they'll tell. The bad ones will tell the good ones, they don't care what you do for them. They're still calling you all these names and so forth. Meanwhile, the ones that are halfway decent, they are still, writers, and they have things to offer, and they really want to be on the team. And we need to create a space or an avenue for them to be able to do that. And that's the reason why I'm starting to, give more attention to the fact that we have to kind of, look at that from a more pragmatic standpoint. And I know I got some of you, because I know D. I can hear D now. He probably going off, throwing his computer like, hell no, I don't want nothing to do with them mulattoes and all that. Because D is on the far edges of this whole thing. Shout out to D. But, and I think Commando Spawn is like that too. But anyway, the bottom line is this. Either we're going to formulate a practical way for them to be, there have to be some rules of engagement here. And there's some other guys out here, I hear them, trying to, have private networks, and they're trying to create, right after the video that I dropped, talking about how I was going to be more engaging with some of these mulattoes, and, just like we are with some of the good black women, all of a sudden, and we're going to get into this later, this other guy that I just found out about, I can tell he's a fan of the channel, this mulatto mindset guy. He's said some of my talking points, and I think he just started his channel like a year ago, so there you have it. We've been doing this for years. So who do you think he's been listening to? Those of us who've been out here for years, and he's just a startup. But anyway, we're going to get into that a little bit later. But listen, we have to make sure that we are taking care of our business and respecting those who have respect for us. Because I got to tell you, I wouldn't have even known about this whole thing as far as this huge fan base apparently that we have of mulattoes, because I'm not starved for attention in terms of validation. I don't go out looking at TikToks, seeing what these people are saying. I don't have time for all of that. But because I start getting these things in my algorithm with all these dudes whining and crying, I was like, what are they crying about? And I'm going to give you an example. It's kind of like, just say we're in our ivory tower. I just say I got a fort, right? Just think we're in a walled castle. And I'm over on the other side of the castle handling business, doing all this. Then all of a sudden I hear this distant murmuring of whimpering and crying and sobbing and slobbering. And, I'm walking closer to see what's going on. And as I get closer, I see this quartet of crying cornbread colored clowns who are just bawling and sobbing. And I'm like, they look like grown men, but why are they crying like some little children? And I can't understand why grown men would be crying like that. And I didn't understand it, but I start getting a little bit closer and closer. And then as I'm hearing them crying, they're saying, they only want him. They only want him. They don't want us no matter what we do. And they're just crying, right? And I'm like, well, who are they talking about? And then I come to find out that they're talking about me, or they're talking about us, right? So in other words, it was these dudes crying that tipped me off to the fact that obviously, I guess we got a bunch of writers out there who happen to be these mulattoes, who they're making videos, professing their love for us. And these guys are taking that and they're just using it as fuel to come out here and bitch and moan. And the thing is, they're alerting those of us who didn't even, because like I said, I wasn't even familiar with that, is that going on like that. And so then I come to find out that there's this whole sector of these, I guess, these women doing that. So it's like, using my example, these guys are out here huddled up. They're like an old doo-wop group crying in a cappella at the fact that these women are singing our praises, and then they're like, see, they even got a celebration going on where they got their picture up and they're over there, twerking for them and all this type of stuff. And they're only loyal to them and all this type of stuff. I'm like, well, wait a minute, let me go see what's going on. So I go down the rabbit hole. I'm like, well, I be goddamn. We got a whole fan base out there that we need to engage with. We need to start showing these women some love. And again, I still stand strong on the fact that I think there needs to be an understanding with regard to these mulattoes that, they are heavily identified as black, that they need to understand that they are not black, but they are still part black. And there should be a way forward in terms of rules of engagement that we can come to some happy medium. And what I'm going to do is maybe extend the platform to give these women an opportunity to express themselves, and we can maybe talk about it and maybe have some open conversations, and then, give them an opportunity to be counseled if they need it, if they're, struggling with identity issues, because these guys aren't capable of doing it. They're going through the same thing. They're the male version of them. So they can't help them, even though they're out here trying to create, I guess, services to help these women. They can't do a goddamn thing for these women. So it's incumbent upon us to maybe give our helping hand to some of these mulattoes who are pining away for our attention, and they don't have anywhere to go. And it's kind of like, in my example of how we're sitting in our castle, and these women, they're kind of storming the gate. Right. It's like thousands of them. Right. So, that I got the gate up and I'm using the 80% 2x4 rule as a metric. But at the same time, we see this sea of women trying to storm the gate, and we have to make a decision. Either we're going to utterly reject them, which could create, bitterness, and then these same women will come out there becoming like Cynthia G or some of these other, bitter broads. And I think that we need to turn that into a positive thing. We need to do more engagement, in a way that still maintains the standard, but at the same time, giving them an opportunity to, have a path forward. Just like if, we're a nation, right? You can be a natural born citizen, or you could be naturalized in terms of, a pathway to citizenship. They're still going to have to acknowledge that they're, mixed and so forth. So, we're not one droppers, but I think, when I start, engaging with some of these women that are heavily identified as black, that happen to be biracial, I'm just going to have to make it clear to them that it's okay for them to embrace all of who they are. They don't have to erase that and just call themselves black, because I'm also going to give them the other side of the coin, as in terms of why the one drop rule is damaging the black people's psyche, as well as our, it's even on a spiritual level, it's very disruptive. So I'm going to have the opportunity to speak to them. But again, that's kind of like a preview to some of the things that we're going to do. And again, these guys who are out here belly aching, they would have had the opportunity for me to give them a platform to where they could come out and speak their part in a non-hostile way, but they forfeited that right because they came out here. They couldn't contain their jealousy and their envy to the point where they want to be insulting and they want to come out here taking their little shots. So therefore, anytime I engage with them, it's going to have to be under the guise of them defending their talking points, and it's going to be adversarial in a debate. I'm going to give them that work, as opposed to be giving them the opportunity to constructively talk about what it is that they would want to say. But it's their fault, because they, again, they were at that fork in the road. They could have chose to be more conciliatory. They chose violence. So it is what it is. But anyway, let's get some more of this, and we're gonna get into the next thing.
Dear, you can't make me. Nobody can make me do nothing I don't want to do. Not no more.
Would it be so terrible?
There's nothing for a Negro boy in this world except pain and humiliation.
It ain't always gonna be like that. Not always.
It will be like that.
And this shows the difference, and that kind of goes to this day. A lot of the mulattoes, they don't understand that, you know, black men, some of them or some of us still feel that way to this day, you know, and the reason for that is because of the social construct that's still in place, and a lot of men don't want to bring children into that, right? But a lot of the mulattoes, you know, they might get hurt, and black women too. You know, we're just focusing on the mulattoes because that's why these, you know, that's the topic, you know, with this quartet of clowns that we're dealing with. But that's part of the reason why there's some type of issues going on. A lot of them want more, because I've even experienced situations like that too, and I didn't realize at the time that I may have hurt some mulattoes' feelings because I didn't, and it wasn't intentional, but I just didn't quite see them as fully black, and I may have said some things that offended them. Like, for example, give you a quick anecdote. I mean, this one mulatto I was cool with, I think she, you know, was kind of sweet on me, but she was nice. She was very attractive and everything. But I think we were kind of working in the same organization at the time, and you know, I don't cross paths like that. You know, I'm not thirsty. I don't need to try to smash women that I'm, you know, engaged in business with. But I remember she was showing me a picture of a trip that she went on. I think it was a skiing trip or whatever. And she was showing me on her phone that, you know, she had went on this trip, and I think there was some whites and some Asians there. And she's showing me this picture, right? I'm looking, and I'm like, well, where are you at? Because, you know, they had their hats on and things like that. And they were out there, I guess, in the snow or what have you. And, you know, she was like, I'm right there. You know, the black one. And it was kind of funny because to me, they all looked the same. They were all the same complexion because she was kind of on the lighter side, but she was biracial. And I was like, I wasn't trying to be funny. I was just literally, I couldn't pick her out. And she pointed to herself. She's like, yeah, that's me right there, the black one. And I could tell she was hurt because as a black man, I guess I was supposed to identify her as a black woman, but it was kind of weird. But anyway, I could think of a whole host of situations like that where I have hurt a mulatto's feelings and I didn't even try to do it. And, you know, I know even online, there may have been some things that I've said because, you know, I get emails and, you know, people bringing comments and stuff, but it's not intentional. I'm trying to, you know, there needs to be some type of rules of engagement. But anyway, that's something we're going to get into at another time as well. But let's go.
Always and always and always. I will not bring a child into this world till I have made this a better world to bring a child into.
So you see that right there, that bitterness is kind of where a lot of these mulattoes are at today. And then, you know, as it turns out, you know, it's a good movie. You can go check it out. You know, she actually did wind up having his child, and, you know, it was unfortunate because that actually led, because he was trying to save the child, you know, from the Klan or whatever. He wound up getting lynched. So it's sad, but it just kind of tells the dynamic that the reason why there's been a historic and current issues between the black men and the mulattoes, and it goes deeper than what these clowns are crying about today, and that's the reason why I want to show you that. So anyway, let's get into this work. I'm going to kind of slow roast this. Where we at? We're still under an hour. Yeah, I know I've been going in, but we're going to get to some of these guys' talking points because, you know, what's this presentation without my famous dissections, right? Because as you guys know, this is the home of the dissections. So let's go ahead and get into some of these guys. The first one we're going to deal with, and we're only going to deal with some of their talking points because I could dissect all of them, and I would reserve the right the right to be able to do that live and direct. as opposed to just, dissecting one of their videos. Because I am the author of the live and direct engagements as well as the dissection. You heard other people use those terms, but they came from over here. And so we're going to get into it. Now, this first guy up is this newcomer by the name of Mulatto Activist. So we're going to talk a little bit about some of his points here, and I'm going to just point out a few things, and we're going to take it from there. So let's go.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's Mulatto Activist. So I'm coming here today to make a political statement. And I know that in the past few days I've been using the word mulatto separatist a lot. I actually think the proper word is nationalist, mulatto nationalist.
Wait a minute. Was that dandruff flying off his head? I don't know. Let me see. I'm not trying to roast him, at least not this early. But what was all that stuff flying off his head?
Nationalist, mulatto nationalist.
Is that dandruff? Anyway, get some head and shoulders, guy. But anyway.
Is how I would describe myself, because a separatist, I know there's a technicality here, but it's an important one. A separatist is somebody who seeks to break away from a larger polity, a larger entity, to break away and form their own government, their own confederacy. So I'm not a separatist. I am a nationalist. I'm a mulatto nationalist.
Okay, in order to be a nationalist, dude, you have to have a nation. Okay, you cannot be a mulatto nationalist, right? Because you don't have a nation. Where's your flag? Where's your infrastructure? Where's your banking? Where's your currency? Where's your central government? That's what a nationalist is, someone who's part of a nation. Hence the word national. But anyway.
That's the proper term. And the reason why is because it is important at the outset to understand what I mean by a nationalist. A nationalist is somebody who believes that people of common kin, people who have a shared ancestry, people who have a similar phenotype, there's certain markers that create a sense of unity, create a sense of peoplehood. And I think that for mulattoes and all black and white biracials in the United States, we do have a sense of peoplehood. We do have a similar experience.
Okay, now here's the problem with that. You are literally comprised of two different races, right? So you share those traits with white people and black people. You're not a different race. That's the problem. That is the fatal flaw in this whole thing. You are not a separate race. You are literally part black, part white. So that means that part of your lineage goes up into Europe, part of it goes into Africa, right? There's no anthropological studies. I mean, we can go back to, France, Boaz. We can go to Margaret Mead. We can go to Claude Levi Strauss. In terms of the, anthropological studies, none of them are going to tell you that biracial people are their own race. And then even from the genetic point of view, you can look at, genetic studies from the NIH. I pulled up information from them in the past to debunk people. The NIH is a National Institute of Health. Look at some of their genetic studies. They're not going to tell you anything about biracials being a separate race. See, that's the problem with you guys. You want monoracial privileges while being biracial. It just ain't going to happen, right? You could look up the Max Planck Society. They've done all these types of studies before. See, again, I know these dudes are not on the right level to be having these discussions. That's why that's why a lot of them be ducking and dodging, because they know if they come around me, they're going to get dissected and body bagged in real time. But the bottom line is, this is a fool's errand from the outset. And there are greater men before you, buddy, that tried to do this and they failed miserably. There are countries now where there's, the DR, you got the coloreds in South Africa. And in fact, I got some information on that, on how much trouble it is for them to try to cobble together some type of representation. And they probably have more resources and brain power behind this than you do. But anyway, and let's be clear. I'm not saying this to disparage or discourage them from having their separate thing. I say, by all means, get your ass over there. I've already invented the 80% 2x4 rule, not as a means to be belligerent, but just to, get rid of that one drop rule. Because I think that's where he and I will agree, is that the antiquated one drop rule needs to die a sudden death, right? But the bottom line is that this is a fool's errand. Instead of them having a more conciliatory attitude towards blacks, they have this inherent hostility because they've come across some people who, may have not kissed their ass enough, or told them they wasn't black, or made them feel unwanted, or whatever the case is. And so now and particularly when it comes to these guys, as I pointed out, their main problem is the fact that the biracial women, the quote unquote, their women are running up behind black men. That is the entirety of their issue. And it is so pathetic. It is so sad. Think about it. Those of us who are of a darker hue, right? Chocolate, complected, whatever, right? We come across a woman walking down the street with a man that's lighter than her. What do you look like running up to her saying, why are you with him? You should be with me, you see? And then you put your arm up next to hers. See, we the same complexion, as a basis for trying to get with them. That's essentially what they're doing. That's the long and short of it. They think simply because they have a genetic similarity with a group of women that somehow that is supposed to be the determining factor in terms of the human sexuality. Meanwhile, as I just showed you earlier, there's an entire history deeply ingrained in the United States and Western countries in general, where the mulatto and the black man have been intertwined for a long time. You're not going to unravel that. Instead of you understanding that and being butthurt about it, you have to just accept it and be like, hey, man, it is what it is. There's black women that I find highly attractive that might be with white men, but I'm not insecure because I know I can get mine. I have all kinds of women that I can attract. So I'm not butthurt about it. I don't try to legislate human sexuality. And that's the problem with this whole thing. You're trying to micromanage people's sexuality, and it just ain't gonna happen. If anything, you're gonna push them further away. Yeah, you're gonna have some women, like that broad we covered. What's her name? Ginger the Hut. You'll have the Ginger the Hut types, because they trying to get in where they fit in, whatever. So they might run with this stuff, but a lot of the attractive mulattoes who, know they can attract a black man, they ain't running with this, man. It is what it is. You do what you want to do, but to me, this thing is doomed from the start. And he made a video saying that he was exiting the space, and I'm like, well, I'd be damned. Didn't he just start this like a couple months ago, from what I can see? And then it's like a grand opening, grand closing. But that's the point. It's a non-starter. But anyway, let's get some more of this. What he's talking about.
A similar identity, a sense of kinship. And of course, it's been taken from us. It's been lost.
Been taken by who?
It's been destroyed. It's been suppressed. But
suppressed by who?
I'm here to revive it. I'm here to resurrect it.
Okay, now listen. Everything that he's trying to do, like I said, has probably been tried and failed by better, smarter, more resourced men, right? And the other part of this is, listen, fundamentally, I don't have a problem with it, but you have to understand the day and time that you're in. Personally, if I had my way, if I could regulate, say, for example, some of these, our more attractive black women, not that I'm a hater or anything, because I feel like, due to the fact that we're in an open market, but if there was a way to kind of legislate certain, chocolate women, bringing that melanin to the white man or some other non-melanated man, I would probably opt to, preserve it. I wouldn't want to have, women such as
Brown
this.
is my favorite color.
May I ask why?
Because it reminds me of chocolate. Autumn.
Yeah, I wouldn't want these type of women running around with pink dudes. I wouldn't like that but the reason why you have to deal with it is because you're not an ethno state. You're not an ethno state. You cannot legislate or you cannot micromanage. So all that melanin walking around, I would put tabs on that. I would try to regulate that if I was in an ethno state, right? I would do that. I wouldn't let women like this just walk around.
Now a sought after ambassador to a community that sees in her a true symbol of coffee as one of bold transformation, self-empowerment, and
yeah, I wouldn't let all that chocolate just be, for anybody. I would, we had an ethno state where there was just the blacks and things like that. Then you could maybe talk about doing something like that. But you can't, because you're in the United States.
All right.
At least ostensibly. And you cannot regulate human sexuality. But anyway, I just wanted to point that out. But this other video where he's complaining is he's talking about pro-black biracials, right? And he says they're the greatest obstacle to mulatto liberation. Liberation from who and what? That's what I want to know. But anyway.
Welcome back to the channel, guys. So today I'm going to show you a few clips that I found here on TikTok. And we all know by now that TikTok is a woke, left-wing, Marxist, Chinese, communist-owned, pro-LGBT, pro-black.
Okay, why are you lumping it in? It's not pro-black. You can say that. Now, all the other stuff he was saying, yeah, I could get with it. Again, I don't even watch TikTok or TikToxic or whatever it is. When I come across clips, it's normally in secondhand clips that I'll get every once in a while. Somebody, I'll get something, but I don't have an account. I think a long time ago, we tried to set up something. I think I got kicked off of there, but that's before I even knew what it was. I just thought it was a different platform. But anyway, I don't really look at it. But he's trying to say it's pro-black, but they have countless BS that they allow in terms of derogatory things about blacks on that platform. And the fact of the matter is, you are yourself, sir, a communist, because you are literally trying to create a circumstance by which mulatto women have a limited option with regard to the dating pool. You don't think it's appropriate for them to have a choice of who they want to be with. They voted with their feet already. They've decided that they prefer black men, and in many cases they prefer white men and other men too. But he doesn't seem to have a problem with it. That's the connecting thread from all these guys. They're all whining about the same thing. The fact that these women, in their estimation, are too into black guys. That is the bottom line. But anyway, let's get some more of this.
Pro-tranny propaganda platform. Everybody knows this by now. If you post anything right-wing or conservative on TikTok, you're going to get jumped on. You're going to get dogged out. Everybody knows this. And it is one of these apps that is super pro-black woman, and you have all these woke types talking about futurism, color.
Okay, so now he cleaned it up. He says he said it was just for pro-black, but now it's just pro-black woman. Okay.
Colorism, texturism, you get the idea. Okay. It is one of these apps where if you ever express a negative opinion about a minority group, you will get dragged to hell. But you can say virtually anything you want about white people or light-skinned people, and everybody's going to act like you're some kind of moral hero, some kind of model citizen, somebody to admire and look up to. So it just becomes boring because the entire app is one big circle jerk. It's a bunch of people who think they're smart, a bunch of people who think they have a PhD in so.
You should be right at home then. But anyway, let's get to what he's griping about. Hold on. Among other things. I mean, they're griping about a lot of stuff.
Use it. I don't even use it. And I was posting ironic content when I got on that app back in 2018, 2019. Just posting stuff for shits and giggles, and I blew up, before everything became a big circle jerk, before all the normies took over the app.
Okay, so he's complaining about TikTok. Let me see what he says about her. Hold on. And again, guys, normally when I do dissections, I'll kind of look ahead to see specifically what they're saying. But because these guys are so repetitive, and I didn't, spend a lot of time looking at all their content, I just, we just picked out a couple of videos. So I'm kind of dealing with some of this stuff on the fly in terms of some of their talking points. That's how easy it is to debunk them. But let me just get to something that I think is cogent, because right now he's just griping about TikTok. And you know, a lot of times I'll put markers on here, but I don't have any particular things that stood out that I wanted to mark. I'm just kind of addressing things in general here, but let's go.
Mexican, although based on the way she looks, her mother is probably on the whiter side. This is somebody who is just totally going to be antagonistic to our. This is a woman who will say, hey, let's not stereotype black people. Okay, fair enough. Let's not stereotype black people, even though we have plenty of statistics that would justify that. Let's not stereotype black.
Okay, so you heard what he just said, right? So there's statistics that would justify stereotyping black people. Oh, okay. You mean like the debunked crime stat that says black people are only 13% of the population, but commit half the crime? We've debunked that 7 ways from Sunny, and I dare this guy to want to come and debate me on that. Since he said it, right? You heard him. He said, well, there's plenty of stats to justify blacks being stereotyped. Okay, well, let's put that to the test. You know, and again, we would have to extract all of the biracial crime because, you know, that is included in some of those black crime statistics, right? Okay, so just so you'll know. Not to mention the fact that the stats only talk about arrests, not convictions, and black men in particular are some of the most, if not the most, exonerated because of trumped up charges. But anyway, they don't want to go there. He would get totally body bagged. But I just want you to point it out. You see how these dudes move. They want to bitch and cry about how they're being discriminated against, but they have no problem with going into some of the most antiquated racist tropes and white supremacist narratives that there are against black men. But anyway, let's get it.
People, let's not generalize, because that's wrong, and it's a faulty way of kind of consuming and interpreting information to.
Anyway, let me just see if there's something. I thought he was going to play her video, but let's see if.
Of education, crime, whatever.
Anyway, yeah, let me move to the next video because I can't really pinpoint, anything. Because I thought he was just going to say something about what she said. Maybe he did, but I don't got time to be looking through it. So the next video here is called Monoracials Should Not Dominate the Discourse.
All right, guys. Mulatto activists.
Monoracials dominate the planet. In case you hadn't noticed, buddy, and like I said, you're not a race. So this is a monoracial planet the way God intended. And you just have to understand that you're an aberration. And again, I don't feel as though your existence should be demonized. I was actually one of the ones who was more conciliatory to your cause. I've had people, biracials on, various shows in the past, giving them an opportunity to say their point of view, because I think that they should have they have a right to be heard. But if you're going to come out here with these little tropes and these little BS arguments and then trying to shoehorn black men into your insecurities and trying to project like we're jealous of you, which is kind of funny because you're out here screaming and crying about the fact that we have a higher social position than you. We are seen as the standard for blackness. We have everything going for ourselves. We get all these positive stereotypes about having BBCs and all this, and your own mulatto women are chasing us down. And so we got all this going for us. Why exactly am I jealous of you again? Oh, that's right. It's a projection. You're the one hating. You're the one that can't keep us off your mind. And I'm going to prove this, guys. I'm not just, you got to buckle up. Where we at? We got some time to cook. Like I said, I didn't want this video to be too long, but when I'm cooking, you just got to let me cook. But it's kind of weird that these guys keep bitching and crying. And by the way, that's my term, whining and crying and all that. I heard some of these guys trying to use it, trying to put the insult that I put on them back at us. Because, as I said, they be ear hustling over here, and I dare them to deny it because I'll pull the receipts. But anywho, these guys are sitting up here talking all this nonsense and projecting all of this, and they are the ones that's out here crying. I don't see black men crying about black women going with lighter skinned men or white men or anything. The only time we come out here talking about black women is when they are out here bad mouthing us or using us, shoehorning us in a conversation, like what these guys are doing, just to try to justify the fact that they're, want to get with a man of another race. They'll talk about their experiences with a Pookie or something, and then try to shoehorn black men in general into that conversation. That's when we start pushing back, because again, we are an anti-propaganda channel. When people are out here putting propaganda against the image of black men, and that does not exclude other men, such as it, as it were, these guys. It doesn't exclude them. If they're out here doing the same thing that the females are doing, then they're gonna have to get this work too. But let's get it.
So I wanted to give you guys some of my thoughts on something I've been thinking about for the past day or two regarding how are mixed race people in the United States supposed to address the kinds of racial dynamics in society between different monoracial groups, whites, blacks, Asians, I guess to some degree Hispanics, but certainly between whites, blacks, and Asians. And like I said, I wanted to just give you guys some of my thoughts here regarding the position that we are in. So there are more mixed race, multiracial people being born every single year in the United States. And unfortunately,
it's a small number. See, we're the per capita people when you need them, right? You know how they like to per capita people to death, because when you're dealing with a smaller population size, that's why they like to do this little BS trope of trying to compare a larger population in the United States of whites to a small population of blacks. So that means if you have 1,000 whites and 100 blacks, and if only one black or 10 black people commit a crime, then that's 10% of that 100. Whereas if there's 20 white people that commit a crime, that's only 0.2% or whatever. So they'll love that, when they use the per capita. They don't want to use raw numbers, right? And it's just like when they try to inflate their numbers in terms of the biracial thing, you're already a smaller number. So if it's only 5 of you, it's 5 of you in a room, and then one person enters the room. Oh, yeah, we've increased by 20%. Oh yeah, because it's only 5 of you. Meanwhile, if it's 100 of us in a room and 5 people walk in, then that's only 5% increase. Whereas yours looks like a huge 20% increase, but you still have a smaller population. But the bottom line is, they don't want to get into the nuances of the numbers like that. They just want to come out with these feel-goodisms and try to stroke themselves like they're going places. But anyway, let's get a little bit more before we move on.
Even in 2026, the people who dominate the discourse on mixed race identity are monoracial groups. It's Asians, whites, blacks.
Yeah, because they dominate the planet. Black people were the first people and dominated the planet for hundreds of thousands of years. And then, in the past, about 1,000 years or so, the whites, took over through a level of brutality and subversion and treachery. And that's the other thing with these guys. Listen, your aspirations as a monoracial, especially if you're going to be an anti-black monoracial, it's going to fail because you don't have the barbarism and the savagery of your white daddy, because you have too much of us in you. That's the problem with you. You get to whatever elegance and style and class and humanity that you happen to possess is because of those Bantu genes running through your veins. That's what the reason is. See, you can't understand that because you are too caught up in your feelings. You would have to commit levels of barbarism if you want to displace black men. And even the white men still failed. They tried to whitewash. They tried to exterminate. Look what they tried to do to Haiti. They tried to exterminate it. Yeah, it's going through its problems, but Haiti still exists as a country today, in spite of having basically the whole Western world go to war against it, and they still lost, and Haiti still exists today. But you have, if you look at Africa still has most of the resources on the planet, even though it's been pillaged for thousands of years. Africans are still running their countries. Listen, that's the benefit of being a monoracial group that's been here from the inception. Right? You don't have that privilege. You, by virtue of the fact that you come into existence literally through almost exclusively fetishization or human sexuality. It's like they say about fire and what that is to human civilization. It says that fire is a dangerous servant and a cruel master. And what that means is humans use fire. We use it to cook and to do many things, but it's a dangerous servant because at any time it could go against us. And we know how devastating fire can be. And it's a cruel master in that if you don't control it, it's going to control you. Right? And that's what sexuality is to the mulatto. Because the moment you start building up your little community, and all it takes is one of your little mulattoes to go out there and get attracted to a monoracial man, which you know is the default setting, because they're either going to be attracted to a black man or a white man, or maybe an Asian or something, and then you're done. You don't have a legacy anymore, because the very thing that caused you to exist as a mixed or multiracial person is the fact that there was people from totally different groups who didn't have much, if anything, in common other than a libido, and they got together. Now, again, that's not in every case, and I'm not saying cross-culturally and cross-racially people can't fall in love, but by and large, it's because your black daddy wanted to bust down a Becky in the backseat of his Bronco, and that's what happened. I'm sorry to tell you, but that's the reality. Or some white dude, and I ain't just talking about the plantation owner, wanted to knock down Akeisha. And in fact, there's a subculture of white men that says that that's a rite of passage, and that they are not men until they then knock down them a black woman. So you have all this fetishization going around, and as a result, unfortunately, we have these offspring. But you are not a race, and you cannot absorb the same things that monoracials can. You cannot absorb the things that black people had to absorb. Even white people who have had, their numbers are stagnant in Europe. They're falling like flies because of the sun, because of the heat, all of this. But they're even more resilient than you because what? They're monoracial. They can absorb certain things. You can still see a bunch of white people being miscegenated, and because they're so structured and vicious, quite frankly, with their one drop rules and how they immediately get people out the mix, they use that as a means to preserve themselves. And black people, even though they don't, at least not yet, I plan to change it, with the 80% 2x4 rule, because they've been adopting it more than what I even anticipated. But as a default setting, black people, if they were to embrace that, then they would become even more stronger. But it's because of our dominant genes and because of our resilience as a people that we can, deal with certain incursions. You, on the other hand, don't have that privilege. You don't control the lands of the earth. Most, if not all of the lands on the planet are controlled by monoracials. The resources, the means of production, everything is controlled by monoracials. So how in the world are you going to set up some type of multiracial or mulatto movement that's going to be of any consequence? Total nonsense. But anyway, he's just kind of pipe dreaming. So where are we at? I think I'm going to move on. I think he had one more video that I was going to talk about, but for the sake of time, this one where he was, I guess, throwing in the towel.
All right. We're live, ladies and gentlemen. Let me know if you guys are in the chat. Let me know if you guys can hear me in the chat. Let me know if you guys can hear me in the chat. Type ones if you can hear me. Type ones if you can hear me in the chat.
Okay, let's get past all this.
Type ones and go a separate direction. I understand. It's very tumultuous, the situation that we find ourselves in. Of course, it's not ideal. So I'll cover that in a second. I'll give you guys my thoughts. But first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to read the community post that I left up earlier today, kind of giving you guys my opinions on everything that's going on, and kind of just wanted to make it clear to the...
No resilience at all. See how fast these dudes throw in the towel? Grand opening, grand closing. Let me fast forward. I'll just let them read some of this. We're not reading all of this, but this is some of it just to show you how lack of resilience they have. You cannot be serious if you're thinking you're going to in any way compete with monoracials, and you can't even. We have to last in these conditions for damn near 2,000 years. If you take from the last African or black kingdoms, it's been a good minute since we've dominated the planet, and we've been, quite frankly, suffering ever since. And it's been in the hundreds, if not thousands, well, not quite 1,000. I would say tops, maybe, depending on which kingdoms you count, maybe a couple thousand years, and particularly the past 500 years, right? So for at least 500 years, they've been going in on us, throwing everything in the book at us, and they still couldn't totally get rid of us, and we're still here. And these guys can't last 5 days. This is crazy, but anyway, let's get it.
Look bad by association. I hate to admit it, but as dumb and obnoxious as the guy is, Michael might have been right. This whole shit might need to be burned to the ground so something better can.
Wait. Did he say burn to the ground? Did he say burn to the ground? So wait a minute. Does that mean that this thumbnail is accurate? They're back there burning the Super Mulatto world is burning in the background, and that's why you see we got the mulatto over on the the escape pod. She's saying, wow, these mulattoes are crazy. I'm safer with you, Black Daddy. Because like you just said, it just burning it down. The Super Mulatto world is burning and they don't care. But anyway, let's go.
Take its place. That's the unfortunate truth. Unity is practically impossible here because nobody is actually serious about this except for a few of us true believers, and everybody else is out for themselves. That's just the truth. Therefore,
it's called America.
I'm going to be doing my own thing from here on out, and all of you who support me will be a part of my community, and we will separate ourselves from unserious, immature people and focus on what actually matters. I have no desire to be attached to any sphere, space, or community. Whatever good there is in this community gets absolutely poisoned and tarnished by interpersonal conflict and endless petty beefs. The drama is an absolute distraction and kills our momentum.
I think they're more like monoracials than they expect.
Can't be focused on that if we have any desire to progress. So with that said, I want nothing to do with the BS anymore. It isn't worth the attention or energy at all. And no, this is not about mulatto mindset. Before you jump to conclusions, sincerely, mulatto activists.
Okay, so there you have it. So anyway, I would delve a little bit more into that, but I think that speaks for itself. And you know, we're gonna get into this mulatto activist guy right about now. Actually, let's see what he's over here crying about. Oh, and by the way, the title of this video is Seek Greener Pastures. I mean, that sounds familiar because I think that's what I've been telling guys to do for years. You know, seek greener pastures for different reasons, by the way, because his gripe is the fact, if you look at the rest of the title, it says, seek greener pastures, my brothers. Mulatto women prefer dark-skinned pookies and beta brads. So, again, the whole raison d'etre for these guys is the fact that these women are not preferring them. That's the whole thing. That's the Mullattopacalypse. It has nothing to do with the social economic construct. No one's out there lynching them. No one's out there burning down their towns. Oh, that's right. They don't have any. No one's out there, you know, making them sit on the back of the bus. Nothing like that. It's just the fact that mulattoes just don't prefer them. And then all hell's breaking loose. It's amazing. Well, let's go. Yeah, it looks like he took a page out of some of my productions as well, but anyway.
Baby, look back at the camera.
Okay, so he's over in South Korea with his flat back right there. And again, if you're going to go over there to the Asians, then just get absorbed. You guys are already absorbed, you know, culturally by them. For all this talk about mulatto destiny and all this, you are hyper obsessed with Asian culture. And they're some of the most monoracial people on the planet. This is insane. Oh, not the street preferences. Yeah, because most of the time they're talking about how they love black men. So I guess they found a few of them that say they like mulatto men and they get jolly in the behind. It's just like that. I wasn't even going to comment on that garbage. It's some broad at a Usher concert of any, you know, Mr. Herpes or whoever he is. Who gives a damn? But apparently these guys were getting jolly in the behind because some thought at a Usher concert said she preferred Chris Brown. They're like, see, things are changing. That's when you know things are bad and desperate. Listen, we all know that if the cameras were off, she would be getting busted down by both Chris Brown and Usher. So why are you even caring that this broad, whether people got their preferences, who cares? But they're so gullible to any type of positive, anything that they're so desperate for any type of acknowledgement. It's really pathetic. But anyway, let's get it.
Para mí, los mulatos.
Y la española. La mulata.
These women are unattractive, so who cares what they like?
Mulatilla.
Jenny over here whipping up the noodles.
But anyway, he's showing off his little flat back, and that's okay. Shout out to that. But, you know, why are you out here crying about what mulattoes are preferring when you prefer monoracials too? Yours just happen to be Asians. They prefer black men and white men. You prefer Asian women. You both are equal.
Need to be pragmatic about this.
You're not being pragmatic, buddy.
Now, we're going to talk about a few things in this video. Mostly, I'm going to center it around dating.
Surprise, surprise. Let's fast forward.
Announcements. I want to say mulatto women are welcome on this channel. 100% you're welcome here. But my audience is 75% plus males.
Yeah, I can believe that.
And I am a male myself.
No shit.
So this video is mostly going to be geared towards the male perspective. So I do agree that, you know, you can kind of flip the genders in your head. All right. So whatever I'm saying, you can kind of flip it because it's kind of true from the male to female.
Now this whole melodramatic music, I mean, this is perfect for them whining and moaning and crying. And so, you know, he's setting the right stage, you know, in terms of the content, in terms of how they give their presentations. But
female, with the female perspective, right? Mulatto men don't typically approach mulatto women, etc. Okay, I'm in full agreement of that. I think it's
okay. Then why are you crying about what black men are doing?
Both of us that are having, you know, this issue with each.
But that's black men's fault, right?
Each other. But I will say, I think it's a lot worse on the female side.
Says the guy who's over in Asia trying to bust down Korean chicks.
And we can even include the light-skinned blacks, right? Because this is an overlapping issue that mixed race mulatto men we have with light-skinned black men. Their women always seem to choose dark-skinned men.
I mean, the crying of this, I mean, I would not even make a video saying stuff like this. I couldn't even imagine making a video talking about how dark-skinned women like light-skinned men and how that's a problem and how I gotta sit up here and cry and moan. This is so embarrassing, dude. I mean, you wonder why they are choosing us over you when you are out here literally showing estrogen infused talking points. You are literally embodying everything they're complaining about. Why do you care? Listen, you're in I guess he lives in America, even though he looks to be, you know, trying to transition to Asia or whatever. He's at least from America. You know, it's at least on the surface a free market especially in the dating scene. People can date who they want, right? Why are you so invested in who mulattoes are with? Why do you feel so entitled? Black men, we've been dealing with that for hundreds of years with, you know, losing our sovereignty. We've lost kingdoms and empires over the course of hundreds, if not thousands of years, and therefore we've lost the exclusive rights to our own women. We've accepted that. We accept the fact that, you know, these men from these other groups would have access to black women. We've come to peace with that. We understand that. And we're in a superior position than you, at least by your own metrics. And we aren't even out here protesting about who black women are with. Now, of course, you have some extreme cases that you may have some guys who are just, you know, gonna maybe make a scene if they see a black woman with a white man or something, but that's rare. Because as men, we understand, especially black men, we're confident. We know that in a market society like it is, you got to let the woman choose. And especially those of us who ain't got no problem getting chosen, we don't care. It's not to say that, again, if I was in an ethno state and I had the ability and I was the king and I had, you know, I can make the laws and the rules. Yeah, I might regulate our best women. You know, I would make sure that they marry inside of our phenotype. You know, I wouldn't want them to give those genetics to some other group. I would want my kingdom to be strong. I would want my people to be healthy and look great. And I wouldn't want our best and healthiest women going off to somewhere else. But we don't have an ethno state. And therefore, this is ridiculous. And for you to even have that mulatto mindset, bars, such that you believe that you can regulate that in any form or fashion is a fool's errand. But anyway, let's get a little bit more.
Same thing with mulatto women. They always want to, you know, have dark-skinned men.
Damn, he cannot keep dark-skinned men out of his mouth. You got dark-skinned men in your mouth more than the mulattoes that you're complaining about.
And they publicly say it on the internet. And I've been...
So again, he's whining and crying. They say it on the internet. Yeah, because again, they can say it's free speech. So you want to regulate who they're dating, and you don't even want them to be able to speak about it. This is insanity.
Watching a lot of different videos.
Yeah, I'm sure you are. These guys go to the furthest reaches of the internet just to find things to get offended by. It's insane, right? I don't even know how they have time in the day. You know how much negativity is put about black people on a daily basis? I don't have time to go chasing that down. How much BS is said about black men on a daily basis? How many bed wenches and swirlers and divestors are out here singing the praises of their white daddy and saying all kind of nonsense? When we know the actual stats, we know that demographic of men are responsible for most of the crime, a lot of the pedophilia and all that type of stuff. So those of us who know, we ain't tripping off of none of that. But those segment of women who prefer those men, I say, great, go get you one. I think, and I said it before, I'll say it again. Any black woman that want a white man, she deserves to have him, and she should have him. Good riddance. I'm cool. But these guys don't have the testicular fortitude or the manhood or the confidence to say that. So they're so butthurt at the fact that these Bantu Ladas, as they call them, that's actually pretty funny. I saw a video where they called them Bantu Ladas. That was pretty funny. But anyway, listen, guys, you gotta be reasonable here. You cannot regulate human sexuality. They've spoken in the open market. If these mulattoes, they want to identify more with their black side, they want to be immersed in the black experience, they want black men, you just have to accept it, man. You just have to accept it. Stop coming up with these goofy movements and these goofy talking points, because you're just making yourself look bad and you're proving everything that they say about you. But let's get a little bit more
of them doing this. And what I'm trying to tell you, gentlemen, is I seek greener pastures with whatever it is. And this is why I'm making a pivotal change from, you know, doing drama content, feeding you guys this negative energy, to more positive energy, so I can feed more positivity into your life of entrepreneurship, travel, build.
Okay, but that's all fine and dandy. But yeah, you could do all that while leaving us out your mouth. You know, stop caring about who we're busting down, whether it's mulattoes or whoever, man. Get a grip. But anyway, this is another point I want to make with some of these guys. They can't pick a struggle. So on the one hand, he's complaining about how they're being one dropped, but on the other hand, he's saying that they're being rejected. So, and then watch this video. Let me fast forward past his intro.
As the truth, the search involves a deep exploration of.
Hold on. Yeah, so they're sitting up here talking all this nonsense while at the same time they're perpetuating it. But watch this. Oh, and by the way, he has some members only or some secret society. I wonder where you got that idea from. I'm sure these guys have been over here ear hustling, looking at the private network. But anyway, they always got to come back to showing their true admiration for the black daddy. They love black men just as much as the mulattoes, but because they are men, they can't express it because, you know, they're not gay, but they have, it's like an imploded hero worship. And I'm going to prove that before I wrap up, because you know I just don't say stuff over here. And it's like they have side character syndrome. I don't know if it's main character syndrome, but they don't like the fact that we're the main character. You know, we're the Batman, they're the Robin. But instead of them playing their post and we could be the dynamic duo, they can't sit with their jealousy. It's just like, again, if Robin got jealous of Batman, he wanted to take over. Then Batman got to put the smackdown on him. You know? And then they, instead of them wanting to play their position, now they want to be henchmen for the Joker. So it's crazy, but let's get it. Okay, so you got to join. Yeah, they've had secret societies of mulattoes before. You know, they were called the Blue Vein Society. You know, things like that. It didn't work out too well, but anyway.
We are going to skip the intro and get right into the video.
Actually, we had to sit through your intro, but anyway.
So I've been running a campaign, which is hashtag Stop Mulatto Hate, because nobody else is going to run campaigns for us.
And remember, guys, he has not cited one instance of a mulatto or a group of mulattoes being attacked physically simply because they're mulatto, or having their villages burnt down, or any level of things that black people have had to endure. But he's framing it as hate simply because there's some TikTok thoughts who are saying that they don't prefer them. This is, I mean, you just can't make this up.
Nobody else is going to help mulattoes, not the social justice ones, not the LGBT. None of these groups are going to stand up for mixed race people.
To do what? I mean, black people got their hands full, in case you hadn't noticed. You know, the least that we have to, if anything, that's the reason why the interpretation is in some ways you guys are privileged, because of your proximity to whiteness under a standard by which, even though it's erroneous and it's not natural, and you know, you see more and more whites coming out talking about how, you know, they wish they had more melanin. And by the way, it's funny when these guys call themselves golden and all that, when melanin is worth way more per ounce than gold. But anyway, I digress. But anyway, a lot of white people are coming out talking about how they wish they had melanin and how they envy black people's attributes and so forth. So we know that this white supremacist experiment was a fraud. But meanwhile, there's still a psychological damage that has happened in mental illness that has permeated particularly the black female population, whereby they are still pedestalizing, in some case, I mean, they're waking up more and more, but they still are indoctrinated with that nonsense. And so these guys, by virtue of their proximity to that, they have benefited. But that's not good enough. They want to be put on a pedestal perpetually, and because they are not, they are here acting like petulant children, and that's the problem. But let's go.
Mulatto people, not the vegans, the people that sit down in the highway.
Anyway, he's just crying about that. I think there was a specific thing he said. Hold on, because he's talking about this comment, right? And it's funny how they're talking about how people are saying that they don't accept them as black, and that's a problem. But even when the ones who are the one droppers, which are the most ignorant people among us, who are still believing in the antiquated one drop rule, but even then they're still crying about that. So again, when you're crying just for the sake of crying, you can't even figure out what you're crying about.
The same, our complexion is different, which is not race. We are all human. Sexual organs are exactly the same, bone structures, everything. The only way you can date outside your race is if you're trying to impregnate a cow.
Anyway, this is just some weirdo. And again, they find these weird comments by these weird guys, and they go on these tangents. This is dumb. Man, there's no way I'd spend my time scouring the internet looking for things to be offended by. And again, the only reason I know about these guys is because it popped up on the algorithm, because I talk about these topics, and I'll see some goofy title. I'm like, what the hell is he talking about? You know, like certain things they'll put out like this. American mixed women.
Passport. See the stamps from the east.
So this particular video is called American mixed race women will only submit to black men. And again, that's how some of us got tipped off by this, because they were outside whining and crying so loudly. It wasn't that I even heard the women crying and yelling. It was them. And that's what tipped me off. And as I started listening, they were talking about me and how much these women love me and men like me. And I'm like, oh, really? So thank you for letting me know, because unlike you, I don't scour the internet looking for things to be validated or offended by.
Mixing up the culture, doing things they never.
So he's all in these monoracial cultures while being a mulatto activist. This is crazy. But watch this comment right here. I guess he has a problem with this woman's preference.
What's up, guys? Mulatto Mindset here, back with another video. And this is the reason why anybody that's biracial, that's trying to build in America, this is the reason why you're never going to be able to do it. You always have your own people being adversaries towards you. You're not going to be able to build in America.
Okay, now he's saying that because of what this lady wrote here. Now watch this. Look at what she actually said in versus his interpretation. These guys are so extra. Watch this.
Now let me read what this stupid person had to say. I mean, hey.
Okay, so she's stupid because she has a preference, right? Okay.
You have your preferences. That's fine.
Apparently it's not.
But, I mean, the rest of the stuff that you said is kind of odd. So this person...
No, your response is kind of odd.
Person says, unpopular opinion, but as a mixed woman, I'm only interested in dating dark-skinned men. That's just what I'm attracted to, and I don't think...
Now, what's wrong with that? So I guess if she said she was a dark-skinned woman and she was only attracted to light-skinned men, I guarantee you he would be singing her praises. These guys are such hypocrites.
I should have to apologize for it. Everyone says preferences are valid until someone has a preference they don't like.
Exactly. Hence the reason why this guy is screaming right now.
I'm not attracted to light skin or mixed guys. And I'm not going to force myself to date someone I'm not interested in. I'm not interested in just to make other people comfortable. Wow.
See, he can't even give a cogent response. He just, oh, wow. Yeah, because that's just, she didn't say anything wrong. He's just trying to find something to be offended by. Just simply because she doesn't prefer you, which you're actually proving her point. That's why you got a problem with it.
Wow.
See, look at he's just sighing and crying. You hear him? This is so pathetic. These the guys. Look, guys, it didn't have to be this way. You could have got some game from us, but because you want to come out be adversarial, we could have put you on. It's just like if you take a guy who got some wealth or some, you know, just say I got a lot of women or whatever, right? Just say you my homie, right? And you ain't getting love. Don't you know I'm gonna put somebody on you? I'm gonna put in a good word for you over there. Because you would think if these guys wasn't such haters, apparently we're doing something right. That we got all these different women from all over. You can see TikTok, white women screaming about how much they love black men, Asian women, Latina women, black women, mulatto women. So apparently we're doing something right. Instead of you trying to soak up some game and come humbly, you want to come out here and show your biracial butt cheeks and sit up here and act as though we're doing something to you just because your woman, according to you, quote unquote, your woman is out here singing our praises. But instead of you coming and saying, hey, man, you know, I like your style. I like what you do, because y'all bite our style every day. Let's just put it to what it is. Stop fronting. You actually do want to be more like us, but your bottom line is you can't be. Not just because of your genetic makeup, but because you're too prideful and you don't want to come and really get the real game. So now you're going to sit up here and take this woman's innocent post. She didn't say nothing wrong. She didn't disparage light-skinned men or biracial men at all. All she said was you were not her preference. And like I said, guys, I told you earlier, that's the whole problem. Their problem is the fact that they're just not the preference. And just like some divas, they're out here melting down. And it's really sick to watch. But we here to put in this work. I'm making this a special occasion because I've been on the periphery looking at this stuff, but this is my time to strike, and I'm taking precious time to do this, but to me it's worth it because this needed to be done. So let's go.
See, it's the fact that when they do this, they're doing it to like put.
See, he can't even get it out. He's trying to find something wrong with this just so he can point out like it's a slight against him. It's not. She only stated her preference. That's all. She did not call you guys those type of names. She didn't say you were feminine. She didn't even give the reasons that she wasn't attracted to you. Oh, they're too feminine. Even though you are exemplifying the reason why she may not be attracted to you, but she didn't go into detail. She just said what she liked and what she didn't like. And meanwhile, this guy's sitting up here, fit to be tied, just cannot contain himself in his jealousy and his envy and his just feeling of insecurity to the point where he has to come out here and talk this nonsense.
Biracial men down. I don't see any biracial men putting mulatto women down.
Is she putting you down? You're putting her down now just by telling her that she cannot have an option. Well, how much more can you put her down than that?
If they have other preferences, right?
No, you just fly off to Korea and put your flatback girlfriend on camera. You know, that's what you do.
For other races of women. And I can agree with you here, right? Everyone says preferences are valid until someone has a preference that they don't like. I can agree with that. I understand that.
You are living that.
But the problem is the hatred.
Oh my goodness. Now, what point did she say she hated him? So to me, listen, these guys are so attention starved that they are construing someone not preferring them as hating them. I mean, that is pathetic. Anyway, I think I've had enough of him. You know, let's get into this last. No, I think we got, because I wanted to spend more time on him, but this level of patheticness, I don't know how much longer, because plus we're coming into like an hour 50. But yeah, I know it's been entertaining so far, guys, and I know you guys enjoy this type of content, but you know, I had to give you guys something special. But we're gonna get into this Ronin guy real quick. I had a few videos that I was gonna review, but for the second time, I think I'm just gonna do this one right here, and then we're gonna get into this Vanguard dude.
It is your boy, the Mulatto, Ronin, back on at it again with another banger.
You got him kicking down a black samurai, huh? I got some armor. I wonder if he could do that in real life. I got some black samurai armor.
And fire video for y'all out there today. Y'all today. Welcome on back to the channel. You know what? I'm gonna slide up here in the field real quick. Get my.
That's a weird hairstyle.
My steps in. And I'm gonna get my push-ups in too later on the day. Try to hit 400 push-ups.
Yeah, shout out to him. He's at least trying to be in shape, even though it looks like he got some ways to go.
200 mountain climbers. I'm really finna show out today. I ain't gonna lie. Been doing high volume back to back, so finna get right. But anyway, I gotta really speak to my fellow golden race men, my fellow mulattoes, Blasians. You know, I gotta really speak to us out here and really educate y'all on this topic, because it's very, very important, and it's gonna take us a lot farther, man. It really is. You know, as I gotten older, when it comes down to mixing, dating other groups of women, especially the more attractive and stuff you become, man. Once you become more attractive in general, you already pose a threat. But
I don't know, women, do y'all find them attractive? I don't know. I don't judge men, but I'll let you determine that.
And just seeing the shift from how it was back in the day, even when a lot of us wasn't even aware of our power, seeing the shift from back then to now really showed a lot of us the true colors of people. But that's cool, man. You know, we some strong people, we finna build. But I gotta really talk and really speak on this topic. Excuse the wind, I hope the wind ain't too crazy, but it must be said, because I don't really see a lot of these videos floating around on YouTube. But I gotta really speak to a lot of my fellow golden race men out here in America, how to get the light-skinned mixed race woman back. I'm talking about in mass numbers. That's right.
See, here you go, guys. That is the point. And like I said, I had a few videos of him I was going to review, but again, I've been going in so much. I didn't want to have this video too long, but I had about maybe 3 videos I may do it at a later date, specifically if these guys have the nerve to respond to any of this. Yeah, they're free to, but I don't think they want it with me over here, but I'll definitely engage whatever they, however they want to do it. But the bottom line is this: it all boils down to that. He's talking about getting the women back. I'm like, yo, who's saying this? That's just like men. That's like black men talking about how we gonna get the divestors back. As far as we're concerned, they can stay where the hell they at. We don't even want them back. We like, keep your ass over there. You good. But hey, they want them back. Anyway,
already starting to see the shift, but I do feel like we're gonna definitely see a lot more of us united, a lot more very, very soon, man. Because there is a big shift. A lot of us are waking up, and we're just seeing so much getting exposed out here nowadays. But I gotta talk about, guys, how are we gonna get our women back?
It all comes down to that, right?
Mass.
In mass.
Because this is very, very important. It's gonna really improve our image. And on top of that, man, community. One of the things we're not really taught, because we're looped into blackness. Don't get me wrong, like everybody's proud of blackness, who is mixed, but
yeah, I can't tell, because the way you're out here calling people Bantus every 5 minutes, it's kind of hard to tell. And again, Bantu in and of itself is not a pejorative, but they're so ignorant. They're trying to make it a pejorative, but the fact that their feeble minds are trying to do that shows you their internalized anti-blackness and how they don't have these type of cute terms for Europeans. They're not trying to turn Anglo, for example, into some type of pejorative. You ever notice that? And they're not even tripping off the fact that a bunch of mulattoes are going over to the white side. They have no problem with that. They just have an issue with black men. And I'm going to show you why. Because they deep down, that is their insecurity. That's who they envy the most. And that's why whenever you do it, it's 10 times worse than anybody else. Let's get it.
We're just so used to thugging it out, and so is the black community. If you think outside the box, move a certain type of way, be your authentic self, you're thugging it out through life. That's why a lot of us were pretty confused when it comes down to, our blackness, and like, well, full blacks, if they're an anime person, they're gonna get yanked out of black community as well, But at the same time,
that's not true. That may have been true back in the day, but it's a lot of black people who would be considered cool, but they still know. Now, I don't watch anime. I think when I was younger, I did, but I was still considered cool. I had people around me, I guess it just depends on if the woman finds you attractive, but I had women that knew, when I was younger, that I liked certain things, and they didn't care. They still would kick it with me. They would even watch some of that stuff with me, It just depends on if they find you attractive. You know how women are. If you're a dork and a geek and or whatever, and you're just not attractive to them, it don't matter what you're into. They ain't gonna rock with you. But if they find you attractive, you got charisma, you cool with them, they'll be down with whatever your little hobbies are. There ain't no problem. But anyway,
it's more different with us because at least with full blacks, even if they is a bit socially awkward or nerdy, whatever the case may be, they still got a chance. They'll always do better than somebody like us. You know why? Because there's far more of them than there are us. Then on top of that, we don't know who we are because our history was erased.
They keep saying it was erased by whom? Who? You can still go and look up mulatto history. What part of it? What ancient civilization? What Atlantis level civilization? You want to talk about erasure? That's our history, right? We got the most erased history of all time. So don't come to me about no cultural erasure. But anyway, what exactly is this history? If anything, I've helped pull out mulatto history that you guys never even talk about, such as the Hyksos. When I was over there body bagging that light-skinned historian clown, when he tried to claim some of our ancient civilizations, and I showed him, listen, why don't you guys ever claim the Hyksos? They were a mixed race group. They took over Egypt for about 100 years. Now, the blacks had to, we had to kick them out eventually, but they did, dominate Egypt for a while. And they were a mixed race group, but they never talk about it. I'm the first and only person that I've heard in this space say anything about the Hyksos. So we're actually bringing out mulatto history, but this dude keeps trying to make it seem like we're trying to hide it.
The one drop. and confuse a lot of people. So with us, you know, we don't even know our history like that. They damn sure not going to teach it in school. So we're waiting.
Yeah, because it's grafted into, because you know America is a one-drop society. So anybody that's a mulatto, they, not us, not black people, but the curriculum and the power structure is going to automatically put you in that. We already know what it is, but your gripe is with them. But why do you spend most of your waking moment screaming and about what black men are doing when your problem in terms of your, to whatever extent you have been erased, it's because of the white power structure. There's a whole shitload of mulatto women running over the white men, but you ain't got a goddamn thing to say about that. You have been historically discriminated against from white people, all of this, but I have yet to see a video with the same level of vitriol that you have for black men. It is amazing. But anyway, like I said, I'm not gonna spend too much time on him. Let's go to this Vanguard dude, and we're gonna get into a couple other things, and we're gonna wrap up, because like I said, I went a little bit more than I wanted to, but I've been kind of having fun cooking these dudes. But let's get a little bit of what this dude has to say. This Vanguard dude.
As the famous African-American poet Maya Angelou once said, when someone shows you who they are, believe them. Now, it's great that a lot of people out here, specifically African Americans, are showing their ass. They're showing the whole world how they feel about mulattoes and biracial people. And
okay, so you're taking this one individual, right? Now remember, guys, they're incessantly crying about how they're getting one drop, they're getting erased because black people keep trying to claim them and all that. But then they come across one guy like this who's saying some negative things about biracial people. They also see, look at them, they all hate us. Man, the guys are, man, it's gotta be hard to be them, to wake up and have to go and find reasons to get offended. It's amazing.
It's very interesting that a lot of them are starting to sound like the very white supremacists that they cry and complain about all the time. And we're seeing this in real time now. We're providing you with evidence and receipts. And when I say we, I'm talking about the other mulatto content creators who have the courage to talk about this, because most, let's be clear, are not. Most want to sweep it under the rug and pretend like this is not really going on. And then you have some.
Well, because most of them know that there's still people like you who feel the same way, who might feel that black people are a problem, and that you guys have all this internalized racism. They know the history of the paper bag test and the comb tests and all these other ridiculous things that these secret mulatto societies will get into, discriminating against blacks. So they feel like turnabout is fair play, and they're like, hey, you know, I'm not gonna cry and whine about what black people were saying when historically mulattoes have done the same things to blacks. I mean, look at some of the wars that happened between the Haitians and the Dominicans, you know, and all these other issues that have been going on around the world in terms of this conflict. It's like when I made that classic video about whether or not biracials, mulattoes, or mixed people should be included in black history, and I pointed out the fact that individually there have been a very great number of mulattoes who have been friends to black people, and there's been, you know, a lot of cohesion and things like that. But when you look at them as a class, there's always this desire for them to create this kind of this buffer group where they can come out and somehow be just above blacks while still being kowtowing and subordinate to whites. It's really weird and sick. So that's the issue that a lot of black people have with biracials. A lot of black people don't have a personal issue just by virtue of someone being biracial. They have a problem with your position in history that many of you have bought into, and some of the internalized anti-blackisms that you have. And that's the issue. But it's just like when it comes to Drake, you know, their perennial go-to person when they try to express someone hating light-skinned people. It don't matter that Drake was a fucking jackass and he bit the hand that feed him. All these dark-skinned men that put him on, such as Lil Wayne, and he snaked his girl from him while he was locked up. All this other little bullshit that Drake does. And then when we point it out, then all of a sudden we hate all light-skinned people. This is ridiculous, but let's get it.
People, biracial people who are black identified, who will basically say, well, it's our fault. it's our fault. We did something wrong.
Well, again, some of those people are pretty knowledgeable when it comes to history. I've had the opportunity to speak to some of them. In fact, I'm probably going to start entertaining more of those type of people just to, push back against these guys. Cause I know, they're going to be tuning in, probably getting pissed off, and it may encourage them to get some fortitude to try to come and chime in as well. But the bottom line is I'm probably going to start platforming some of those people so that they can give their perspective, because again, we got to have respect for people who have respect for us, and for the biracials who are writers. And I know some, and they come through, and I've had conversation with them, behind the scenes and, through emails and things like that. And so they have a platform if they want to come and chop it up. And we can definitely start pushing back and working together to get people like this out of here, because again, it didn't have to go this way. It could have been better, but they chose violence. And this mulatto movement that they have, once again, let me put it up on the screen. These 4 mulemen of the Mullattopacalypse, this mulatto vanguard, this mulatto, this guy right here, Ronan, and this mulatto mindset, and you see him back in the back, pulling up the rear, this mulatto activist. All of these guys are the ones that have created the chaos that they're complaining about, and I'm just pointing this out, and they are the ones who created this animosity. Like someone like me who would have been more conciliatory, they could have had the opportunity to come onto the platform and talk their stuff, and I would have given them the opportunity to do it without making them look dumb. But they decided that they were going to have it another way, so therefore they can get this work. And as I said, and I alluded to this earlier, when it comes to the mulatto movement as a whole, this is something that's been tried and failed in other places. If you look at the Patriotic Alliance, there's a lot of internal issues with that going on in South Africa. You saw the fiasco going on with the colorism and anti-Africanism going on over there, and how that's backfired on them. And I'm going to let this colored woman talk about some of the inherent problems with these type of movements, because these guys obviously cannot use any historical references to see how it's a fool's errand. So I'm going to help them out and show them parallel movements and how they are encountering the same type of problems. But let's get a little bit of that.
But you and I are not the Patriotic Alliance voter base. And I think that is
so
the key distinction.
So what are you trying to say about the Patriotic Alliance voter base? What are you trying to tell us?
You're trying to get me cancelled on the internet.
Tell us what you think about the Patriotic Alliance voter.
I think, in my personal opinion, and I mean, I think this is just like a broader take overall. I mean, I think colored nationalism is just a stupid ideological value to hold.
Okay, so this is a colored biracial woman who said, I'm gonna let her play it back. So you heard mulatto activist in the beginning talk about how he's advocating for this very thing, this type of colored or mulatto activism, or this nationalism, right? But watch what she says.
I think colored nationalism is just a stupid ideological value to hold. Like when you look intrinsically, I have debated and argued and talked to many people who deeply believe and hold near to their soul that colored people are the most marginalized group in this country, and I think that it is completely and utterly nonsense.
Exactly.
I think that there is no
same thing in America. I like that she said that, because that parallels in America. These mulattoes, like these 4 mulemen of the Mullattopacalypse, they are crying as if they're got it so bad when they couldn't even walk a day in the shoes of what black men historically have had to deal with. They are literally crying because a group of women just say that they don't prefer them. That's what this is all coming from. Meanwhile, black men have been lynched, have had, and a lot of the lynchings that were going on, those were black businessmen under the guise of them, whistling at some white woman or something. But it was a lot of, we're not just talking about Rosewood and Black Wall Street, these towns that black men built that were destroyed just because they were prosperous. We're talking about individual store owners and things like that. All of these types of things that have happened, that's a real reason to be griping about and talking about, how you've been victimized. And I'm not a person of that has a victim mentality. I believe that we need to, dust ourselves off and get it done. But I still have to consider what has happened to us as a people. But you're never going to catch me out here crying about some woman's preference and making it seem like it's a goddamn having the oppression Olympics because of it. And this woman basically destroyed their argument because she's showing that it's even going on over there in South Africa, and even they, in the conditions that they're in, and mulattoes in America have it way better than the colors in South Africa, and she's saying even over there it's bullshit.
Argument for the patriotic alliance's ideology, specifically as it relates to colored nationalism and ethno-nationalism, and you look at the rise of populism, it just makes absolutely no sense. And what I think we do not talk about enough when it comes to the patriotic alliance is how deeply entrenched racism is within the patriotic alliance voter base.
Exactly. See, she knocked it out the park right there. You're crying about being discriminated against, but you are filled with anti-blackism. And in the case of these guys, they are filled with anti-black man issues because of their own insecurities, and it's like an inverted love. And I'm going to show you something, and this is a trigger warning. I was probably going to hold on to this, but I feel like it's a good time to kind of show this because it really exemplifies where we are. And this is a trigger warning, guys, because this is kind of weird, but this has actually happened, and this is the fanboyism that these guys have. Like I said, they are the Robins to our Batman, but they decided they wanted to be Batman. And years ago, these were the same guys who were worshiping, Michael Jordan, Wesley Snipes, all the black stars. They wanted to be down with the cause. In fact, this video I'm about to show you exemplifies it proves my point 100%, because I told you from the outset that these guys love black men as much as the mulattoes. The only difference are they are men, they are heterosexual, so they can't express their love, so it turns into this fake bravado and this hatred, and because it's based out of jealousy and envy. But they idolize us. They love our style. They love our swag. They love our charisma. They are marveling at the fact that us being removed from our throne, essentially, we still have all these accolades, even though we don't have the empires and things that we've had in the past. We still, at our lowest state, are still able to gather so many accolades, and they are marveling at it. And if it was not for their ego and for the fact that they are being marginalized, they would love to be considered black. They would love to be just light-skinned black men. If they were getting at least half of what we get, they would accept that. All this mulatto movement would go away. They would shut up and they would sit down and they would just soak in being black. They would revel in it. They'll be just like the biracial women who want to deny their white side. They'll be doing the exact same thing. But watch this video, and again, trigger warning, because some of you are gonna be tripping on this, but I'm gonna have to show you this because I didn't come to play, and I'm gonna expose these guys. And some of these guys were this same type of dude that you about to see in this video, this biracial guy, and what he's doing for this black man who's wearing Jordans. This biracial dude is paying this black man. You just gotta see it for yourself. Watch this. I'm gonna play it, but once again, this is a trigger warning. Watch this. Yes, you saw the caption. Watch this. Yeah, we're bringing it all out today.
No, I'll do it right here, bro. It's hard, bro. Yeah.
So this is a biracial man right here. You can see this guy's foot. This is a dark-skinned black man wearing Michael Jordans. Now, again, this biracial dude was such a fan of Michael Jordan, and I guess he couldn't afford Jordans. And I'm not sure what he's wearing, but those obviously are not Jordans that he has on. But this black man is wearing Jordans, so he's paying him $20 to literally lick his shoes. I told you, I did not come to play with these dudes. Let's get it. We having fun, but I got to put in this heavy work on them too. Watch this. See, it didn't have to go this way, guys. You shouldn't have came out here talking crazy. I wouldn't have even put this out here. I would have said, hey, man, you can come on the platform. You tell me about your little movement. We can chop it up and have peace. But since you want to come out here, you chose violence. All bets are off. So you're going to get exposed. You love black men just as much as the mulattoes you complaining about. Let's go. He's sniffing the dude's shoes. You saw the dude, right? He just took off his shoes. He's sniffing the shoes. It gets worse, though. Trigger warning. And by the way, fair use to all of this stuff.
I gotta hurry up though, because the bus is coming.
He telling him to hurry up because he wants to sit there and film it and revel in everything, but this is crazy. He's like in the bottom of it. The dude just got through walking on the street. This is crazy. Like, as I said, trigger warning.
Thank you.
Down to give you more, dude.
All right, thank you.
You got the other one?
He said he down to give him more. So he's asking for the other shoe. Please, sir, give me another one. Oh, my goodness.
So you're going to give me 40?
Another 20. Yeah, another 20?
Yeah.
So these are these biracial dudes. This is who they really are. It's just like when you see those white dudes complaining about, but they be watching, they're really cucks. They'll be complaining about black dudes with white women, but they got like 100 gigabytes of corn with black dudes rotting out white women. They're the same thing. I bet you check any of their hard drives, they got gigabytes of black dudes rotting out mulattoes. I guarantee you. Anyway, there you have it, folks. I can rest my case on that alone. In fact, I think I am. We're going to wrap up with that one. You know what? That's crazy, but that's what it is. I got more, but again, if these dudes want to break in this work, we can do it. It didn't have to be this way, but, you know, they could have been considered allies at least, but it's just like back in the day when people used to call white people honkies. You know, we're gonna have to call them half a honkies or something, because, you know, they're just gonna have to be exposed.
You rat-soup-eating honky motherfucker!
Yeah, so we gonna have to just you know, give them that work, because they are incapable of running this shit.
Fucked up big time. You're incapable of running this shit.
We gave them that, but now we have to tell them to sit their $5 ass down before we make change.
Sit your $5 ass down before I make change.
Kareem brought him to my attention.
We got 300 people working for us at all times. I can't keep my eye on every single one of them.
You was taking care of business.
If I was what? If I was what? Say it again. What'd you say?
Nothing.
That's what I thought you said. Because that's what I got right now. Nothing. $1 million a week business. Reduce the fucking rebels. What? Huh? Nino. Huh? It's your responsibility, huh? Nino! I never liked you anyway, pretty motherfucker.
Yeah, I had to play the scene that they hate so much. But again, listen, we could have been cool. We could have been cool. Everything could have been on the up and up. We could have been, you know, working together like we did back in the day. See, that's what a lot of you guys, you don't remember the time when light-skinned dudes and dark-skinned dudes, you know, we had these buddy relationships. I still got light-skinned dudes to this day that I'm cool with to this very day. To this day.
This day. To this day. To this day.
So it don't bring me no pleasure to have to go in on guys like you, but since you're not them, so you're fair game, but it did not have to be like this. We could have been cool. We could have had all kinds of, cross cultural interactions to help improve our situations mutually, but because you are so self deprecating in terms of looking down on yourself, and because some mulattoes say that they have a preference that's not you, you let that get the best of you, and you came out here and made an enemy of the very men that would have been one of your strongest allies if you just had the requisite amount of respect. Because we all know deep down that you have an affinity for us. You love what we do. You love copying and emulating us. Me personally, I've seen so many of you biting things that I do, not to mention black men in general. So the jig is up. We already know what it is. And it's unfortunate because a lot of you guys are out here and you're going in the wrong direction. And I was going to make, this is a sneak preview of another video I'm going to make. I was going to dwell on this more, but this particular individual right here, who they call a black man, he got a lot of disingenuous people out here, particularly, women in particular, who like to defend, effery as long as it's in, under the guise of protecting black women, but they'll let, black men get thrown under the bus, and they'll sit up here and say that this was a black guy. This was a mulatto guy who murdered this woman by the name of Asia McGowan. And when some of you guys come out here acting a certain way, you hearken back to this guy.
Or private. It was public and open, spread across several websites online. But unfortunately, we still live in a world where actions online are seen as much more frivolous.
So this guy, his name is Anthony or somebody, I forgot, it's like Powell, I think. Yeah, Anthony Powell. And he pretty much killed this the other woman, Angel McGowan. She was multiracially mixed too. They say she's a black woman because a lot of these little unsophisticated, degenerate content creators, they'll come out here and say, see, black man, there's a black man that killed that black woman because of what she was saying online. It's like, no, this guy was a religious zealot. He did not like the fact that I guess she was an atheist or whatever, and he went, and they happened to be in the same town, went to the same school or whatever. He brought a shotgun up there, and he did a murder self-deletion, and it was tragic. And many of you guys, I'm not saying you're going to go this far, but you need to be careful, because unfortunately this guy was spoken of as being a black man, but he wasn't. He was multi-generationally mixed, and I would say he was biracial because I think both his parents looked to be biracial, but I think I'm going to show you them in a moment.
Real life. When you come across unreasonable people without unreasonable behaviour, there is a greater risk that their online rhetoric may be played out in reality. And looking back at what happened to Asia, the warning signs were there as clear.
So that's her. Now sometimes you have these disingenuous people, they'll show a picture of her being darker just to illustrate she was a black one, but you can see she's multi-generationally mixed, and this was mixed folks business, and he went and off this girl, and again it was tragic. And this guy is kind of the forerunner to some of these other unstable guys. So that's the reason why I want to point this out. I may make a separate video going in a little bit deeper on this, but this is, like I said, it's just kind of like a trailer for it.
In hindsight is both a blessing and a curse, but many doubted Anthony was able to do such a thing until it was too late. His parents claim that they were completely unaware of his online profile, his videos, and even his aggressive rhetoric. But allegedly, they tried to help Anthony with his mood problems for several years to no avail.
My child had no head.
So that's his mom. You can tell she looks like she's biracial.
It's challenges, but we tried for years to give him the help he needed, and it just wasn't out there. There was no way they could help my son. I don't know what was going on in his life recently that he should do this.
He's dead. He's gone.
And that's his father. And again, shout out to his parents. I'm not blaming them for what he did, but as you can see, they're multi-generationally mixed, probably biracial, but this guy was all in the news, and you had a bunch of degenerate, disingenuous content creators yelling about him being a black man, killing a black woman, when this was a biracial or mixed, multi-generationally mixed man killing a multi-generationally mixed woman. And you guys are sitting up here talking about what black men are doing and crime stats. Okay, let's start separating you guys out and we'll see how low our crime stats go. Because this guy was, according to you guys, and by your own standards, in fact, he looked like some of you guys, he wasn't a black man, so you can't count that against black men. But anyway, let's get a little bit more.
We didn't know anything about him doing anything like that. And I offer my condolences to that family of that dead child.
And the outcome of this story does beg the big question. If this crime was so preventable and obvious, then who is at fault?
Yeah, but anyway, this is the guy.
Is it technically the...
Yep, one of your biracial brothers. And if you guys aren't careful, you don't want to go down the path of that, because you guys are hyper-focused on what the women are doing, just like this guy was, and you got to leave it alone, man. Calm down. If you got to go to Asia, whatever you got to do, get you a woman, do what you got to do, but let them women do what they going to do, because they're going to do it anyway. That's America. That's the Western culture, right? You don't live in a ethno state or an ethno dictatorship, right? But anyway, getting back to my original point, you guys created this. You know, you don't want me to be the type of guy that's not on your side, because you're going to get this heavy work. And it's unfortunate because, again, it didn't have to go this way, because I will sit there and clown you. I have a production team that we can go out here. We can create little funny things like this. You know, we'll go ahead and dig up videos like this right here, making fun of the fact that you are like the Mushroom Kingdom. And y'all remember when we was kids, used to play these old Mario games, but this is what they've become.
Okie dokie. No!
So this is them trying to survive the mulatto world, and they're fighting each other. So that's what they're ultimately going to do to the mulattoes. And then watch the ending. I'm showing you this for a reason, right? Because it goes with our theme, but watch this.
See you later. Mario number 1.
So that's how it all ends, because after they run off all the mulattoes, then they're gonna turn on each other. I'm sorry, I just have to play that because it goes with our Mario thing. You know how I like to be consistent. But anyway, we're gonna be wrapping it up soon. But again, I just have to keep reiterating the fact that it didn't have to go that way. Back in the day, dark-skinned man and mulatto man, we got along fine before you guys were so jealous and hateful. And we used to work together, like in scenes like this from the classic movie House Party. So we working together because it was a dance off against the women, and the light skin and the dark skin dude teamed up in this dance competition. So We used to work good together. Yeah, so that's why it was back in the day, but you guys messed it all up because you got jealous and stuff because of dark skinned man, we had came into our own. We started getting more attention and stuff, and so you just couldn't deal with it, and then it just became this. Yeah, guys, I know we over, but I'm just going in, I'm just making sure that I thoroughly deal with this situation because these guys have allowed this thing to get out of hand. And I just had to push back because, again, it didn't have to go this way. They were sitting up here saying all this nonsense. And meanwhile, their situations is getting worse. We're making moves. We're doing a lot of things that they could have been benefiting from. And like I said before, I'm probably going to make another video dealing with the fact that we are going to start maybe doing more rules of engagement with the mulattoes that are down with the brothers, because that was a segment that I kind of been ignoring. I didn't realize how deep it was because these guys were out here crying so much. I said, damn, it must be more serious than I thought. I didn't realize that it was that deep. So we need to capitalize off of those people who showing us love, and we need to be reciprocal with it. And like I said, because these guys have did that, we could have been like at that scene in House Party. So now I got to bring out the other scene from House Party. I had to bring out the Black Daddy belt. so we could have been cool, like at working together as a team, but Black Daddy had to come out and had to bring the belt out. So here we go.
I wouldn't do that just yet. Your ass is mine.
I can explain.
Whoop that damn
I can explain,
high
really.
top fade off
Give me a
of
chance
you.
to explain.
I'm sick of your shit. I didn't work too hard and too long to let you run over me. Like you
We gotta whoop that. Gotta whoop that biracial ass.
Looking for your monkey ass. All you kids over there just over there in the grind and peeping in the hide. But I know your ass. You was there, wasn't you? Wasn't you? I'm running the show around here. I'm wearing the pants and the apron, and I'm wearing your ass out. Oh! Ow!
We had to put the beating on
I
them.
get sleepy, and I'm wide awake because I just woke up. You think you're big and yellow? I'm supposed to be like mellow. Hell no! I'll start a fight in an empty room. You can call child abuse if you want to, but they better not come in here because I'll kick their ass too. I'm gonna give you a whooping from now on. I'm gonna whoop the cowboy shit out of you. Pop. Get your ass to bed. And don't wake up till I tell you to.
Well, yeah, that's what we had to do, man. I had to put the old school whooping on them. And, just as an aside, just say that you guys go ahead and achieve this, which is the odds are against it. But let's just say through some miracle of, tear in the space-time continuum, and you're able to pull this thing off. I'm going to tell you right now, because of your foolery and because you have made us adversarial, we're not even going to let it rest. I don't care if it's down the line and you guys get this thing pulled together, your little mulatto community. And because I can, I'm just gonna crash the party. It ain't because I even care that you're doing it. If you put together your little biracial barbecue, I'm gonna come in that bitch with two mulattoes. One's gonna have a keytar, the other one's gonna have a saxophone, and I'm gonna come in that bitch like Bobby Brown, and I'm going to disrupt your whole party. I'm gonna come up in there, and I am going to show all, because by that time you probably would have tried to take all of the imagery of black men away from the mulattoes. You're trying to raise them so that they don't know who we are. So what I'm gonna do is come in there, and I am going to remind them of who we are, because you sitting up there trying to hide who we are, and giving them this false impression that somehow, we didn't make you who you are, and you're just sitting up here crying and moaning. Let me see if I get my clip, because to me it is really sick that you guys have done this. And I'm going to end on, let me see if I can find this clip. Thought I had it. But the bottom line is this. You are the ones that have caused this ridiculous friction. It didn't have to go this way. We did not have to have any type of animosity. But because you could not stand the fact that black men, in your estimation, are getting way more attention to you. You never stop to think that as to whether or not we deserve it, or that we worked hard and that we cultivated our image over decades after being ostracized and marginalized. See, you don't even have enough sense to understand that we've gone through this already. There was a time that we were put in a category of undesirable and all of that, and you don't even understand the methodology that we used to turn that thing around, and how we were able to build our image back, even though we're still in a position that's not worthy of us, and we're still, by and large, admired while being demonized at the same time. You guys don't even understand that you could learn something from us, right? Because you're too busy crying and moaning that you don't even respect the fact that we have just a huge treasure trove of knowledge that you could be benefiting from. But no. All you want to do is get on the internet, talk your stuff, and act as though it's okay. And I'm here to tell you, it's not okay, and you need to chill with that. But you're just gonna have to learn the hard way. But anyway, yeah, I was gonna play my clip of Bobby Brown. I think I might accidentally moved it to another folder. But anyway, I'll say that for the next one. I'm gonna show you how I'm gonna come up in that biracial barbecue, because you guys been sitting up here talking crazy. But anyway, that's all I got. I gave you guys a deluxe edition. And yeah, we pretty much are going to end it here. And once again, I'm glad you were able to tune in. We put in this work as you know we would. And we're going to end the way we always do. We're not just a broadcast. We're a squadcast. There's a very big difference. Mission complete. Over and out.